Good Friday afternoon, evening. Hang on a second, Victor. Oh, you are unmuted. Good. Okay.
Yes.
I heard during
I'm unmuted. You cannot silence me.
I did mute you because I heard the introduction going, and all of a sudden I heard.
I
is
thought
that?
we were muted during.
We
that.
are, but for
Okay.
whatever reason today you weren't during the intro, so I reached over and punched the button. So
Okay.
So that's done. Hi, by the way, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And, okay, help me with his name again, Victor. Is it?
Engin, I think.
Engin.
I
RG.
don't know.
That's what we believe, and I believe he told us last time, and I already forgot. It's been 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? We weren't here last week.
2 weeks, yeah. I was in Belgrade, Serbia last week.
Belgrade.
Yes. I froze to death.
Oh, so it was close to 40
It
Celsius?
was below freezing point, whatever that is.
Oh, it
in
was.
Belgrade.
Okay, so it was below zero. Okay, so it was, okay. Yep. David, hello from Minnesota. Yes, it's cold up there. And Jivaden, hello. How is everybody doing today? By the way, and I'm like totally messing up everything. And right before, and Victor, I don't know if you saw it, I just changed the whole flow of the show in the past 3 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're
Okay.
starting out normal, but it's going to go off the rails from there. So just,
Okay.
you'll follow me.
As if I ever paid attention.
You don't pay attention. Here's a big thing for everybody for the next couple of weeks. I'll go ahead and put this up front. In the U.S. this weekend is time change.
Okay. Good for
Europe
you.
doesn't happen for another 2 weeks.
Okay, because we want to see first how you fare. Kind of, you're a guinea pig for us first. Let's see how they deal
Yeah.
with the change.
So that happens on Sunday. So what's going to happen here next week? So the times as they change are going to be based around me because all of time is based around me. So it's going to adjust your time. So anybody that's in Europe or in places that don't observe daylight saving time, it's going to be an hour earlier, which is actually better for you, right? Because then you'll be done by 7 your time instead of starting at 7 your time. Let's get through. Marcine, good to. You fixed yourself. Hi, Neil, Florida. I wish I could go to Florida. It's spring break. Like all the schools are out next week for where I'm at, so everybody's leaving to go to Florida. Vladislav, good to see you here live.
Hey.
Again, I agree. This is going to be a mess. And then March 13th. Okay, so Ontario is the same way. I forgot that you were also up in Canada. So I forgot Canada was changing this weekend too. So you still have 2 more weeks. Chris, good afternoon to you as well. It is afternoon, evening. You know what? I've totally blown everything. Get the drink out. You already have yours. In fact, you've been working on yours the whole time. It's been one of those weeks. Have you ever had one of those weeks? Have you ever had one of those 2 years? In the
I
26th.
have one of those weeks every week.
Today, from a historical purposes perspective, today is 2 years to the day that the first case of the word that we won't say was found in the county that I live in. So it's been 2 years.
Today? Oh, okay.
Today was 2 years official, like reported, and then basically today isn't the 15th, is it? I don't know what today is. The 11th. So 15th is when the world shut down, I think. Right? It was about March 15th.
Of what? Of
Of
March?
March.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That was about when the world shut down.
Now think about it. When was our SKO in Vegas?
February.
From which I came back home with COVID. February.
You
Okay.
can't prove that now, but yes.
I cannot prove it. Yes.
And we did a
That's true.
podcast. We did a couple. We did one in my room, and you were coughing up a lung.
Yeah.
And then we did another one, which we were in. Where were we? Was that in Vegas? Oh, that was Vegas. I was thinking about when we were at the conference in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That was before. That was in September, October. That was really weird because we did this. We had this whole room to ourselves in one of the Moscone centers in San Francisco. But not just a
baby.
room. It was, 100,000 square feet, maybe? Bigger than that.
Something like that, yeah.
That was fun. Victor could have been the super spreader. It was funny because everybody traveled in for that meeting. That was just normal. And
I mean, all I knew about COVID at that time is something strange happening in China. Who cares? Type of that was the phase that I remember back then.
And a lot of people were getting sick, but they just thought, okay, it's February. We've been traveling. We're on planes. It was just, but who knew? Now, some of that may have been legitimate, right? And we're not going to get into the whole health thing because who knows, right? It's been 2 years now. But yeah, Victor was an early adopter of all things.
Exactly.
I have not had it, but I've also kept myself locked away in a house for 2 years. Different conversation. That's yeah.
That's better than alternative.
Yeah. In fact, my daughter had it. We believe she tested negative, but she knows she had it. And I was like, nope. She's like, do you need me to bring anything to you? I went, no. You need to stay at your place. Do not come anywhere near our place. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing things, so this week's podcast episode was about FinOps. And I had not heard of, actually, I think I had heard of FinOps, but I hadn't spent any time. There's actually a FinOps Foundation. If you listen all the way through the episode, Roy said there's a FinOps Foundation. So we had Roy on. He's the CEO from FinOut. There's too many fins in this. By the way, I will say this. I did a live stream yesterday with Mark Waite about what's new in Jenkins. And the current version that came out on Wednesday was 2.332.1. Right, that's the current LTS version. The next two versions are going to be really hard to say because it's going to be 2.332.2 and 2.332.3. I'm already practicing for the next 2 months because I'm going to mess it up. I already know that. Yes, I agree. There are too many ops, and this is what Roy was saying on this episode. Is some people are hiring FinOps. He didn't use the word engineers. But he was really pushing for FinOps as a framework, which I agree with, just like DevOps is a framework. But when finance gets buried into application development and operations, how good is that?
All I know is that we need less silos. Now, if FinOps turns out to be yet another department, yet another group, yet another silo, then I'm not very happy about it. Now, if on the other hand that will foster collaboration between people in a company, then I'm all for it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It really depends from case to case how you implement something randomly, right?
Yep, and I think this is Giovanni's bringing this up. Can't leave this to the old school accountant. I'm going to show my age. I don't remember exactly which Madonna tour it was. I didn't actually go to the tour, but I saw a video of the tour. And it was the last show of the tour. Long story short, most of you probably don't know this backstory, but I toured for 6 years. Lived in a bus, 200 plus dates a year. That's just what I did. Different conversation for a different day. But I was watching this tour, and I think it may have been the Like a Virgin tour or whatever. But the closing tour, they brought everybody out on stage. And then they went down into a pit. Well, you could tell exactly who the tour accountants were because they were fat old white guys. Sorry, different story. But again, and right now, but this point is true. The cloud cost falls onto the ops folks because you get yelled at when you go over budget, right?
But that's the thing. I never understood this. To me, that makes no sense. Cloud cost or any other cost should fall in to the team that is using that something. Right? Kind of like ops are not users of infrastructure. They are facilitators of infrastructure. They create infrastructure. They don't use it. I think that ops should have zero budget. Right? All the costs should go, hey, you're a team, you have your application. This is how much it costs to run that application.
Yes. And this one of the things that was one of the things that Roy brought in. It's like I asked him the question of, okay, well, how do you sort of cost this out? How do you pass on the cost? And he's like, figure out how much a transaction cost, and then you just basically do a per transaction cost. And again, showing my age, it's like, well, that's how we did mainframe. You
Yeah.
get charged back for every transaction you got charged. Gee, AWS does that too, don't they?
You know,
You may,
the subject of next week's video, which I'm not going to say what the tool is, but it's more or less that. It's kind of like, hey, let's say you have a Kubernetes. I know that you're not the only user of Kubernetes, but you're using 20% of the resources in that cluster. That cluster costs this much. 20% is that much. That's what you owe. Simple math. It's not really complicated.
it's utility pricing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's the way I think it should. Now, that also means you have to have good accounting within whatever systems that you have.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not passing on the cost correctly. Oh man, let me get back over to the chat here. Maz, good to see you here. Go back to here. We had a case where someone misconfigured Lambda, and we were getting an increase of 20,000 a day in Lambda cloud. I'm not as concerned about the Lambda cost as I am the CloudTrail cost, because those seem to be more extreme than actual Lambda cost. I'm concerned about it too. But that was, again, going back to the episode this week, that was one of the examples of there was a case to where somebody saw a 33% increase in their cost because instead of running a process twice a day, they started running it 3 times a day to make it better for the end customer. But it ended up costing them 33% more, and that didn't offset the value to the end customer. It's just... there is an easy answer to this. I just don't know if the people want to do the work internally.
But
I think you have to.
If you're running in AWS, you cannot predict the cost. Kind of like it's completely 5,000 random things there with random prices, and nobody understands really how much it will cost. The best thing you can do is, okay, so this is the bill of at the end of the month. You owe me 20%. Your team 20%. Of that bill. We don't know how much it will cost. We just know how much we just paid.
Yep. It's not like where you can go to a restaurant and you split the bill evenly. There probably should be a base part that you should split evenly. Like, okay, there were 5 of us here. The waiter was great. Let's give him $100 tips. That means all of us are paying 20, and then plus whatever else.
No. So you can, even restaurant, that's not true, right?
Yeah.
You can split the bill evenly when everybody is behaving more or less the same or eating similar stuff. Now, if in your group there is a guy that orders champagne and eats only caviar in large quantities, then you will probably not split it evenly, right? I mean, you might, but then you're behaving silly, right?
Well, yeah, but in my case, to where I don't drink. And then all of a sudden, you went to the far end of the champagne. What's even me to when you go to a place, and I've seen not abnormal $10, $15 beers because of the location. And I had done good. I actually just had some water because I was dehydrated, I knew it was, and had a plate that was maybe $15 or $20. And by the time we split, I ended up paying $120. It's like...
Not fair. Not fair.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to push back, and I'm seeing this. Internal accounting can waste time... more money and time than it saves. I agree with that, but... Excuse me, I agree with that, and... Because if I say but, then I negate what I said. I do agree with that. However, if it is a SaaS to where you're needing to pass costs on, you don't have a choice. You have to do that. I think.
Yeah.
All right. AWS is very expensive when you care about audit logs, and yeah, it's... Their CloudTrail pricing is insane. How do you budget for anomalies? That's a great question. Maybe invest in the latest NFT or crypto and hope that it goes up.
I mean, when you have committed contracts, you need to include a buffer.
Yeah. No, and how much should that be? What I would do is just like how I typically do stuff around the house. It's like, I don't know exactly how much it is. I know the ballpark. I'm going to go ahead and just double it to begin with and see how it runs for 3 months. And then I adjust. Well, I just went through this we ended up having to, my yard guy changed, and the new yard guy doesn't do fertilizer. So I had to go and get another company to do fertilizer for me. Well, now I had to go back, and it's like I'd been budgeting a little bit, but not enough to cover the new fertilizer guy. So now I've had to adjust that. So I'm going to watch it for 3 months, make sure, okay, everything seems to be tracking. That was a 1-year contract, and how much it's going to cost. But how do you handle the overruns?
Basically, you put high profit margin. Like 50% is profit. Now, if we messed up, then we're going to end up with 10%.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. So FinOps. I think this is going to get a lot more. I think FinOps as a standalone operation isn't going to be as interesting. Excuse me. I think it's interesting because obviously it's a thing, but I think where it's going to get a lot more interesting is when it's mixed in with audit and compliance. Because when you put those 3 things together, that story becomes a lot more interesting to the finance teams, I think.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, this is not my area of expertise interest, so I might be completely wrong. But essentially, it's all about figuring out, we know how much we as a company spend. Now we need to figure out how much you as a team spend.
Yeah. Going back to what I was talking about, yeah, it was my own money for that. But I think I would have to, when I was running in the startup, I had to, this was 10 years ago now, we had some VC money, but we tried to be careful with it because we really didn't want the VC money, but we needed it for other parts of the business, licensing costs for primary reasons. But it's a tough one. Let me see what engineers need the cost reports and can use this for feedback for further improvements. I think that's the starting point, but this gets into this is where DevOps comes into play, which we're going to talk more about this towards the end of the show. If your DevOps team, shared services, central services, whatever you want to call them, if they're not providing a platform or services that people can use to where costs can actually be counted, they're just pointing and clicking and filling in tickets for what people think that they need. There's a balance there, right? So I'm going sort of hard one side. It's never going to win. You're always going to be running into cost overruns.
You have to have a choice.
Yeah.
I think that DevOps or Ops, I'm not going to use the term DevOps, Ops teams should be charging their services internally.
Yeah.
That should be part of the cost. Now, the only way that can work is that if you can choose to say no.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have a problem like monopoly in any economy, right? Kind of like you cannot charge things and have monopoly at the same time because then end users are really in a bad situation.
I don't know that I agree with this statement. I understand the sentiment behind it, but I think most of the time, let me rephrase this. I think 80% of the time this is true because the PMs, the marketers are saying this is going to be the next greatest thing ever. So you automatically over provision. But in that 20% time to where, this is just going to be a thing, going back to Roy's example of, we'll just add this extra report to run or we'll just have this report run one more time a day. And then all of a sudden, you're up by 33%.
No, I'm going to go in defense now, devs, and I'm talking about the past tense, not today, right? I was always overestimating everything because if it takes like 3 months for me to get servers, I'm going to ask for double because I don't want to wait another 3 months, 1 month later after I get the first set, right? And the same thing for management. Hey, whenever managers say, give me the ballpark, I'm not going to take it for granted. And then for 3 times in a row, it's written in stone. I'm going to overestimate.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Simply, it's in my interest, right? Kind of like, if I say within a month, and you are not going to be flexible, you're going to start yelling at me within a month if I don't finish, and I'm going to get pat on the back if I finish it earlier, then I'm going to say 2 months. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's natural. And
Well,
everybody's doing the same. This is not developers, just to clarify. If I say 2 months instead of a month to a manager is going to go to CEO and say 4 months instead of 2 months. Just to clarify, kind of like everybody's going to double it, right? Until you get 10 times more.
It's the middle management, the middle man, the middle everything. Everybody's taking their cut.
Exactly.
Which in reality, this goes back to the direct to consumer conversation we were having before we started today. If you just went direct to consumer, which is what Heroku did, reality, what AWS did, what Fly is doing, what Render is doing today, going straight to the developer, cutting out the middlemen, it's like, oh, okay, I'm stretching the analogy a bit.
No, but that's that competition, right? Kind of like I can choose ops team in my company, I can choose Fly.io. I mean, I don't think the Fly.io is there, but let's say Heroku, right? Yeah. I can choose Heroku, or I can choose my ops team. There is competition. As long as that is allowed. The problem is that it's not allowed.
Always not. Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. I thought cloud was going to be cheaper. That was... I went down that path in this episode. And it wasn't so much that it was cheaper, but that we thought our lives were going to be easier, which equated to cheaper. But
our lives are easier.
With cloud, they are easy. Well, they can be easier. Unless the operations team is treating the cloud like their standard data center.
So let me rephrase that. Our lives are not easier at all. But if we would be doing the same things as we were doing before cloud, then they would be easier. We just kind of like, you see new possibilities, then you're doing more, and it's not easier, but because you're doing more.
Right. Well, let's go back to your example just a moment ago. I know normally it takes a couple of months for me to get a VM. So you're going to put that in there versus, okay, now I just say, give me a VM. Give it to me in East, give me a medium. I'll start there. I'll adjust as necessary. Right? And in 15 minutes on a bad day, you have a new VM.
Exactly.
And nobody had to open a ticket.
Well,
no, had to. A ticket was opened, just not by the person. Or the ticket was opened, which then kicked off the flow of doing the thing, right?
That's the business idea. Maybe that's already being done. How about if we create a system that actually does the operations whenever you open Jira ticket? Maybe that's the interface we're missing. Open a Jira ticket, you get a VM. You want 3 VMs, open 3 Jira tickets. You always get a VM. Doesn't matter what you write there. You always get a VM.
Oh, that's all it is. That's all you get, though, is a VM.
You don't have to actually bother, It doesn't matter what you put. You can say happy birthday in description field. You get a VM for every Jira ticket.
I can't tell if you're being serious or facetious right now. I'm having a hard day figuring things out.
I also don't know myself.
Is that your first bottle or second bottle?
First in front of you, second so far.
Okay. I'll go here. It can be cheaper if not only. It just can't be a lift and shift. Agree. That's the thing. The illusion of self-service is what we're going for with this. What about deleting a VM? How would you delete a VM with it? You would open a new ticket.
No, but we already established I'm not paying for it. Why would I ever delete a VM?
Oh, okay. Then who's paying for it?
Why would
you don't
I
care?
don't know. DevOps.
Okay. All right. So this is interesting. DevOps is paying for it. They're finoptically DevOpting it. Finoptically DevOpting it. Okay. We're talking about deleting a VM. Something that's interesting. So we use Netlify to host the website because basically, number one, we don't get enough traffic. Number two, it's all free. It's fine. And we use the preview environment to use their previews feature to be able to track our notes for like the show right now. So as we go through it, they never delete any of the previews. You can't even delete their previews. There's no way to do it. So we have, for as long as we've been using that process, we have probably 15 or, it's probably been 15 or 20 shows, right? And those are all still out there. I can go back and look at the notes at that time, and I can't go delete it. Even after I merge the PR, I can't delete it.
But maybe they are not there. Maybe they're spinning them up really fast when you send a request.
Oh, it could be. What if you move departments or leave? We're going to come back to that at the end of the show, which we need to move on.
Okay.
Because, FinOps gone wrong. I agree. We had a VM running for years. Yeah, people have done. You just forget it, right? It just doesn't matter. Teams never delete their resources unless you make them. Yes.
And how do you make them? By charging them.
By charging them. We've come full circle.
So you want Pizza Friday?
Delete some VMs.
The VMs. It's the same budget. You can pay for VMs you're not using, or you can have Taco Thursday or Tuesday or whatever is it.
Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday.
It's your budget.
Okay. Let's move on to the next theme because I want to come back to all of this that's based around. So there's a new version of Argo CD that came out within the past week, and since we missed last week, I captured some notes, but there really has not been a lot going on for the past 2 weeks, which is sort of strange. But the new Argo CD, application set and notifications are now rolled into Argo CD. Great. New sync and diff strategies, magic hand wave. Here's what I cared most about for this one, is they're now shipping ARM images. As ARM becomes more standard with the Graviton stuff from AWS and everybody else. By the way, have you ordered a new Mac Studio yet? The credit card was put away that day and under lock and key. Again, now you can run Argo CD on the
expensive though, but
yeah, you could expense it, but I don't want to spend $10,000.
No, I'm saying it's not actually that expensive if you take a
no,
base
it's not.
model.
The base model is actually pretty reasonable. Well, if I was going to get it, I'd probably get the base, the one with 128 gig, which is $4,000, which is still not bad. Yeah. Considering used to when you buy a computer, it was $3,000. It's like I'm buying a new computer every 3 years. It's $3,000. Whatever, $100 a month for every month. Anyway, ARM images. I'm excited about ARM. Just in general, I'm excited about ARM. Cost savings, usually performance.
Imagine how powerful this is, right? ARM, right? We're talking about the Internet of Things. We're talking about small devices in hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands floating around the world, right? And how painful is actually to keep those up to date?
Painful. On a good day.
Extremely.
Yep.
By push model, right? Kind of
Yep.
Imagine you having to push a release to infinite number of devices spread across the globe. How complicated that is. Now, if you can have Argo CD or Flux or something like that running in those and saying, you don't need to think about me. I will figure out from a central location when to pull things. In my head, I'm not working heavily with devices, but I imagine that must be the best use case for pull-based mechanism. If you can fit it into their capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of bug fixes, lots of other things just going through there. But again, for me, seeing ARM being officially supported is a big deal. It is a big deal. Plus the other thing here, I just sort of blew past it. Additionally, the image size was reduced by nearly 50%, and now it's only 200 meg. Argo CD is now 200 meg.
Reasonable.
Yeah. Let's see. So at least you can buy the Apple as opposed to the Raspberry. Oh, that's true. But I have lots of Raspberry Pis too. But I can't do video editing on a Raspberry Pi. It just doesn't happen.
To me, it sounds that those Raspberry Pis you have are still better working than your laptop.
They are. They are. That's why I have my heavier workloads running on those than I do my laptop. Okay, I saw this, and I scratched my head a lot. FSA, no, this is not flexible spending account for those of us in the US. The Flux subsystem for Argo. So
I-
FSA's container image can be used as a drop-in replacement for the equivalent Argo CD version to visualize and manage Flux workloads alongside Argo CD. And they walk you through how to do this in a fresh kind cluster. I have not done this yet. But it looks like you create kind, install Flux CLI, install Argo CLI, create a cluster, install Flux, do a little thing, a big thing here, which all this probably looks reasonably close, normal to you.
Yeah, that's all Flux so far.
Yep, all Flux. But it says check Argo CD pods are running and ready, because probably the Argo stuff is buried in here. So now he's actually bootstrapping Argo in, but under the hood, he's actually using Flux to do the work.
So I read it 3 times. I still don't understand what it does. I'm guessing it's Web UI, Argo CD Web UI, or that
For Flux,
shows
right?
Flux, right?
Yeah.
But now I have very bad news for this project because Flux is about to release their Web UI.
Right. I think this is true, yeah, because this is, at the time we're live, this is only a week old.
Yeah.
So once the Flux UI launches, then it's why bother? Other than maybe you like the Argo, maybe the Argo UI is going to be better than the Flux UI. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen.
No comment.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. So I haven't looked. So I try to stay. It's funny that it's named Flamingo. I'm trying to be like an ostrich. I'm just sticking my head in the ground on this for now. Just let's see what happens type deal. But anyway, that's FSA. I'm going to do the videos out of sequence here. Cast was your cost-aware solution for autoscaling.
It's nice. I really like it. It's basically it allows you to choose to combine costs with scaling, so that you can choose whether you are more interested in performance or cost or something in between. And it gives you information how much things cost and a few additional features like rebalancing pods. That's something that most autoscalers are really failing to do. Anyways, it's a good solution. And it's almost like a no-brainer, right? All those solutions that you need to pay. I mean, there is a free tier, right? But if you choose to pay, you pay, but you're saving money, so you're actually really not paying. Kind of like almost no-brainer. I'm gonna pay $100 to any service that will reduce something for $200.
Yeah. And this is in alignment, not by plan, in with the FinOps conversation we've been having today. Right? These just serendipitously happened to happen at the same time. We didn't plan this out.
Exactly.
Well, let's put it this way. We don't ever talk about what's happening DOT versus DevOps Paradox.
We don't plan. You are actually good at planning. I'm terrible at planning.
Yeah, but it just happened this week that these came out on the same week, which I didn't realize until I'm just standing here looking at it, a minute ago. So anyway, that was Cast. But the week before, you had this video about IDP, Internal Developer Platforms. Now, before we dig into that, we'll weave in what you talked about here. 2 things. The reason why I pushed all of this to the end, at least this is the meat of what we're going to talk about. Or unless you're vegan, Anais, if you're here, the salad that you're having.
If she was here, she's not anymore. You just
I know.
kick her out. You just piss her off.
I'm sorry, Anais. Slack this week posted and this will be in the show notes later, applying product thinking to Slack's internal compute platform. Sound familiar? Internal developer platform.
Oh, yeah. Same thing.
And they go into, which is fine, and they talk about team topologies. I like this picture. We have the platform team, and then we have a stream-aligned team. You have an enabling team that helps cross-cut over time, and then complicated subsystem, which is sort of off. Okay, whatever. What's interesting, now this is not open source. They have their platform is called Bedrock. Don't know I would use that because of Fred Flintstone, but okay, we'll go with that.
That's what I thought of.
And it uses a curated set of Kubernetes features alongside guardrails and automation that makes launching, this is the key, production-grade services simpler, more pleasant, don't care about more pleasant, but more productive. This is the purpose of these IDPs.
Exactly.
Should be the purpose of these IDPs. Let's put it that way. It made my heart very happy when I saw Jenkins at the middle. But they use Kubernetes, Jenkins, Consul, Vault, Envoy, and Nebula. I can't remember what Nebula was. Do you remember Nebula?
I don't remember. I know that I've
Okay.
seen it, I've used it, but I cannot remember
Yeah,
what
drawing
it
a
is.
blank. Anyway, so that's their pieces. Nebula Sidecar. I might have to look that up again. So here's what their app looks like, what a Bedrock 101 looks like. I guess Nebula is a proxy. What does this look like to you?
Docker Compose?
Hmm?
Docker
Yeah.
Compose? Kubernetes? I mean, YAML.
Okay. You're defining what you want it to look like.
Exactly. That's what we need. I mean, that black terminal screenshot, ignoring now whether exactly the same fields or no, but that's what we really need. Kind of like, and I like to, what you said, this is it earlier when you highlighted. My description is simply, it's all about enabling developers to be self-sufficient, to be able to do stuff without you, without Jira tickets, without phone calls. Be to developers what the AWS is to you. Simple.
Say that again.
I mean,
Say that again. Do you need me to say it for you?
yeah, I mean, internal platforms should be to developers what AWS is to ops.
Yeah.
Or Azure or Google.
Whatever. Right. It doesn't, or even in the data center. Right? It doesn't
If you
matter.
show me that you actually created a VM by by opening a Jira ticket to AWS team, then I will say it's okay if others open Jira ticket to you. Prove it, kind of like, if it's okay for you, then it should be okay for others.
It's one thing to have to, if you're completely on-premise or completely self-managed with your own hardware, to do tickets, right? There's, okay, I'll give a little bit, not a lot, but I'll give a little bit of grace there. But if you're having people open up a Jira ticket for you to create a VM for them in AWS,
it's not okay for on-prem. And let me tell you why. Because I'm yet to hear somebody saying we use on-prem. We are aware that this is not even close to cloud, but we are using it, nevertheless, for this reason or that. I always hear that we can do the same thing. Well, if you can do the same thing, then there is no excuse.
yeah, you're sounding like a pre-sales architect now. Yeah,
Oh, my.
that's too bad.
Darin knows I was kicked from any
From
sales
pre-sales.
attempts, pre-sales or anything like that. In my previous companies, they would bring me to speak with the customer only after the sales are made, so that I cannot mess it up. I might be good at selling. It's just that I'm never sure that whether I'm selling what our company is selling or something else. That's the problem, really.
Yeah.
I might be making sales for others.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a great article, and they go through all the normal. Okay, to me they end up in the ditch in a few places like user surveys. Okay, that's important. Net Promoter Score by feeding that data in. Okay, fine. Dog fooding, great. User advisory board, sometimes customer. Again, normal things, right? But this is reinforcing that platform team is treating it like a product, which we're getting ready to record an episode about project versus products.
Yeah.
And I have moved from having strong opinions to strongly held beliefs on how I'm feeling about project versus product. So anyway, I think if you are not running inside or running an IDP inside of your organization, I would say take a look at this, because there's reasonable sanity in this document. And what's funny also is we are now currently exploring Backstage, which is from Spotify, as an alternative to centralize our developer tooling and documentation. They're not the only ones. So, very, very interesting thing. Now, here's the reason why everything got twisted around before we started. There was an article that was published at the top of the hour, like 40 minutes ago. The 8 fallacies of your internal developer platform. Jivaden, there's an item here that goes into one of your questions earlier. Now, unfortunately, or can I do this? Yeah, SD Times, I love you guys, but you've now stuck it to where I can't scroll that away. So everything has to stay in this bottom. That's too much pinning. I'm sorry. Love your content. Don't take up half my screen. So I'm just going to pull these up. And they go through, they set it up. And just to give the author credit, Ravi Lockman. And Ravi, if I said your name incorrectly.
Oh, Ravi, that's Shippa guy. Well done, Ravi.
Oh, that's, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I knew the same name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember from where. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the fallacies. So these are things that you believe are true that could be, but at some point may not be. That's how I'm going to define fallacy for this. And I'll have the link. I don't have the link for this yet, so I got to remember to add to the notes. You will always build and deploy successfully. Happy path. We know that that is not true. We'd like for it to be true. Maybe most of the time it is true, but not always. Reader mode and address bar. Thank you. I learned something new today. Who told me that one? Red Seb? Thank you. Okay. I never knew what that was before. Now I do. Oh wait. So what does our site do when we do that? Oh wow. Oh, all we see are cookies and private. Okay, that really sucks on our website. In fact, none of the content shows up for our website when you do that. Another thing put on the list. Okay. We'll always build and deploy successfully. We know that's not true. Your administrators will stay. This was Jivaden's comment from earlier. People will never stay in the same position. Even if they don't leave the company, they may change roles. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted.
Only because I have nothing to say.
Okay. The deployments area is always homogeneous. It's all Kubernetes, right? So if it's Kubernetes, everything's exactly the same.
Actually, that's true. It's always Kubernetes plus everything that happened from the dawn of time until Kubernetes.
Oh, right. It's almost like Ravi looked into the future at the conversation that we had 30 minutes ago. Platform cost is 0. Please, people, no. 5, technology does not change. What's changed this week? We've got Flux running with an Argo front end.
That's only because people stupidly insist that we don't use mainframe for everything.
Next, I'm moving on from that one. Skill sets are singular. Putting service mesh onto developers. I saw a variation of this on LinkedIn. It's like recruiters. If you're looking for somebody that knows Java, Java, Redis, React, Kubernetes, AWS, GCP, you're not looking for a full stack developer. You're looking for a full department.
Exactly.
There will only be one syntax. Well, if you're using Crossplane, there is only one syntax. Did I say that out loud? If you're using Terraform, there is one syntax. But what's going to happen when the bosses that make buying decisions decide to go play golf with a vendor? And I work for a vendor. You work for a vendor.
Like, show me a big company that transitioned 100% from Ansible to Terraform.
But this is the key part. If you have produced a good IDP, sort of like what we saw with Bedrock, right? If the only way you can get stuff is to go through Bedrock, now, mind you, people are going to go around it, but in general, that's probably okay. The way I look at Bedrock is for definitely production, And if it covers all the low-end stuff too, that's even better.
That's the point. I think that majority of people should never see neither Ansible nor Terraform. And I'm not now trying to trash those tools. This is not my intention. I'm saying that abstract it. Now, behind the scenes, whether you're using one or the other or 5 of them, that's your problem. Just as I don't know what AWS is using behind the scenes of their API. In the same way, I, as a user of your platform, I do not need to see none of those tools. Not my problem.
Yep. And I don't care what you do. I don't care how you change it. If you're using Terraform one day and Pulumi the next, I don't care. Here's my definition, because going back to the AWS example, as long as you don't break the API that I'm calling, as long as you don't break the contract, I don't care.
Exactly.
I just want it to cost less tomorrow and be faster tomorrow. Whatever tomorrow is, when tomorrow arrives. Access to this was a big one to me. Access to the platform will be secure. How many times have you spun up an IDP and you're just trying to get it tested out? It's like, oh, let's just test it out. Just keep it out in the open.
Humans are not secure. So if you want to have something secure, you need to get rid of all the humans. Very easy.
That's the bottom of the article. I really wish he would turn this into a book, because he's got 8 great chapters here. Each paragraph is a chapter into its own. But creating an internal developer platform is an evolutionary journey that many organizations are embarking upon. Some are already well in process. Being aware of the fallacies helps make those more robust systems and practices. Yes. Out of these 8, which one do you think, or which couple do you think are the biggest ones, if you just had to guess? This one doesn't bug me a whole lot, because I think most people know that if they've been using any kind of tooling, you know it fails, right?
You realize that within the first week.
Yeah, that's so. If you're still believing this, maybe you were only deploying once a year, and you haven't been around.
The second is a bit. I don't like it much, to be honest, because it's kind of like as if administrators. No, everybody leaves.
Yeah.
So it's not that kind of the problem is if administrators leaves. The problem is if security guys leaves and developers leaves and testers leaves. It's how you organize your company, kind of like how big of a deal that is.
Yeah. I'll bring up something here. Our platform team has disintegrated due to people leaving the org. Should we be building a new platform? Nobody can support the old platform. Boy, that's a good question. Would you build or would you buy? By buy meaning take something off the shelf.
The real problem there is that I'm guessing that you're organized in a way that when people leave, then nobody can support what they're working on. And that means that if you build a new platform, it will be just as good until that team leaves. Not solving the problem.
Yeah, I build and migrate off the legacy, maybe, but like what Victor was just saying, is that team that's building the new going to be around long enough to do it? That's a hard one. Yeah, and this is true. I find it difficult to document everything while a constant try it out and change. How do you correctly document though? What do you think?
I don't know. To be honest, for a while now, first thing I always do is open a new file, something.sh. Whatever I'm trying, whatever I'm executing, while I'm exploring, while I still don't know what I'm doing, I'm still writing it in that script and then executing manually. So I'm not talking about the script that automates everything, but kind of write it there, or a comment, kind of like log in. I kind of start by documenting what I'm about to do, but on a very micro scale, right? So it's not that what I'm going to do today. No, what I'm going to do next 2 minutes. It's almost like a approach to test-driven development, right? You don't write tests for your week worth of work, right? You write tests for next 10 minutes or something like that of work.
In reality, yes. If you're old school XP type developer, not Windows XP, but extreme programming, you would write all the you'd spend 3 months writing all the tests from the Word document.
And then change the company.
I just thought that this was a really interesting. This is perfect timing today. I mean, today has sort of ended up being more about FinOps and IDPs and how that impacts companies. And as everybody has kicked in on the comments, that there's no easy answer. We know the way forward, but is it possible to actually stay on that path and be successful with it? I don't know. That's... What?
Look at the last comment. This is the first time I heard anybody says nobody really knows Java.
This one? Nobody knows Java Kotlin well enough to maintain the...
I heard that for Rust.
Yeah.
It's similar, but Java?
Yeah, so the leading conversation into this was, I'm on the ops side of things, so running Kubernetes is fine. The entire deployment process was built in Kotlin. I haven't written any Kotlin, but I've seen it, so I can at least follow it. It's like looking at Go for me, too. It's like I can follow it, but I wouldn't write it naturally. What would be the answer today? I mean, I don't think there is an answer. Shell. Just do shell and be done with it.
Kind of like, yeah. You need to be really really creating your own application, not just wrapping different things for me not to use shell. And if I wouldn't use shell, I would probably go with something that doesn't compile, like maybe Python or even JavaScript. And then something that compiles extremely fast, like Go. And at the very end of the long tail, Java. But on the other hand, most of us are not choosing the best tool. We're just choosing what we're familiar with. So if I'm a Java developer, of course I will choose Java.
Yeah. So this goes back to, what should you... yes, Bash is everywhere, but it can be very ugly. Yes, true. So find whatever... That's the reason why I like the dynamic languages, the Python. Heck, I would stick with Python over JavaScript. I might even put PHP in. It wouldn't bother me any, right? If you know that. Yeah, they used Kotlin as a wrapper for Docker kubectl, and to an ops person, you ask, why did they do that? Because they knew Kotlin.
Exactly.
They had a hammer, so everything was a nail. And unfortunately, that doesn't always work out well. What's worse, though, is when new regime comes in and they decide, oh, we don't like Kotlin, we like Go. So let's rewrite everything in Go, and you're not adding any value to whatever. I'm extremely guilty of that. Not in writing in Go, but just rewriting something that was already there. And when you decide, if you cannot find internally somebody to maintain, then you have to hire somebody to maintain, I guess.
Then you're at their mercy.
This is the mainframe COBOL argument. At some point, the system isn't maintainable, so you have to go and hire somebody back under contract to maintain it for you. They're going to be charging you through the nose. But that's probably okay, right? Because that's all you need for now, and it's good enough. My dad was that way in software he had developed for his business. He kept the same two guys around for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't work for him. He just hired them out. But if there were only tools that did this for you, that you could just drop in and point and click and off it went. Or excuse me.
Point and click. That's where mainframe is.
Okay. I said point and click, but whatever.
Yeah.
I think you always have to have point and click. You just don't want to maintain via point and click.
Yeah.
If something is operational, it shouldn't be point and click. It should be codified in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I agree with this. COBOL is like Latin. The same with Java. It's never going to... At this point, JavaScript's the same way. There's a lot of money being run through the bits of COBOL where you're dealing with bytes. Because this is the only amount of space I have. I'm feeling sad. I didn't think today would go as long as it did. So anyway, next week we should be back. Are you traveling next week? I didn't ask you about that.
Nope.
You're home. Remember though, for people not in areas that daylight doesn't kick in, daylight saving doesn't kick in, we will be an hour earlier because it's still going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, whatever that is, wherever you're at. Even in the U.S., there are places that don't change time. Arizona and parts of Indiana and whatever. I feel for those people, especially when they live across the street from like, a grocery store and used to the grocery store opened at this time and now it's going to open up. We can't get our stuff together in the U.S. on a lot of things. But it seems like that's one thing we should...
Oh, that's the whole...
Leaving that...
Rid of all that.
Look, I am all about states owning everything, right? I'm not going to go into a whole lot of politics here, but I'm all about states owning things. But this time zone thing, that should have been federal. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep. Vendor sponsored platform being Amazon Proton. The Amazon thing's actually pretty cool. I played with it a long time ago. I haven't, not recently though. But yeah, especially if you're all in on Amazon anyway, why not? Okay, so we'll be back next week. Anything else? I think that's it. Before you leave today, thanks for... Man, we had a lot of people on live with us today. We appreciate that. If you're watching the replay, thanks for hanging out till the end. Normally we're here at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm not going to say standard or daylight because, hey, it just depends on where it is. But it's 1 p.m. Eastern, whenever that is. And I did want to call out one more thing. Did you watch Brett's stream yesterday? Have you watched the replay of it? No? He had Loft on, and they were talking about vCluster. Yeah. So I was listening to that while I was working this morning. And guess whose video came on right after that went into autoplay?
Mine. That was
yours. With the vCluster.
Yeah, baby.
So, just thought it was interesting. Okay, so that's good enough for now. Links for all this stuff will be up probably tomorrow morning. I might get to it tonight, but realistically it's going to be tomorrow because we have storms coming through. And I'll probably lose internet tonight. So, yeah, that's what happens. So thanks everybody for being here with us live today, and we will talk to you next week.